Hello and welcome to another edition of the Curt Williams YouTube show. Thank you for coming. It's early on a very cool Sunday morning, and I have an uncle who was a great preacher, the Reverend Dr. Merkel Williams, and he used to always say Sunday morning is a good time to preach. Well, since I'm not a preacher, I will say Sunday morning is also a good time to teach. So, before we get started, I want to reiterate, I want to make sure people understand what this paradigm thing is. Without understanding this, we're never going to get to the understanding of the universe. And this is what we're here for. This is the only thing we're here for. We're going to explain God and this universe in a way that the Bible never could. So, paradigm, again, it is a bubble, which everything inside of it you do understand, you do believe, you can conceive. Everything outside you can't. The reason you can't is because the Elohims of Genesis understood this point very well. They need to limit your understanding of everything, especially who they were. The Bible says they call them Elohims because they came from heaven. Well, they didn't come from heaven, they came from up there. And the only thing humans knew about up there was heaven at the time. The first human beings that saw an airplane thought that was an angel. You see, so basically they wanted their creations to know as little about them as they possibly could. So your paradigm, they created an instructional system, and it's the same one that they use today in schools. It's one where basically they teach you what they want you to know and then test you on it. If you don't get that correct, you flunk. You do not pass. So if you do not accept what they're trying to teach you, you will flunk. And by the time you get to the 6th grade, you're used to this. By the time you get to college, it's a custom. And basically, you cannot break out of that mold and be successful and get your degrees and whatever else you have to have. You can't be free thinking. Well, I'm free thinking. As a spiritualist, I listen to my spirit, and my spirit is not restricted to that kind of structure. So, what led me down this path, I'll talk to you about in a minute. Now, let's get started with the show.
If you should awaken, I will be there when you wake from your lovely
Welcome back. Now, today's episode, we're going to start about the dinosaurs. The reason I wrote a chapter about the dinosaurs is because a lot of people don't believe there were dinosaurs because it's not in the Bible. Well, everything's not in the Bible. Dinosaurs did exist. There's a slight misconception. A lot of people feel that fossil fuel, crude oil, and the gasoline that runs their cars comes from dinosaurs, but it does not. Sorry if you thought that. No. Crude oil actually comes from fossil fuel that they're speaking of. When you start to dig down and find the different layers of sediment, and you find dinosaurs are here. Crude oil is down here. It will take another 200 million years for dinosaurs to become the kind of actual crude oil that will run your automobiles and everything like that. So we're a long way from that. The actual fossil fuels, where we get fossil fuel from, they're basically animals from the sea, the seabed, hundreds of thousands of years ago, as well as shrubbery, trees, and everything else. And after a time, they become crude oil. Like I said, dinosaurs won't be crude oil for another roughly 200 million years. Anyway, now that we got that cleared up. But still, we find their bones. We have dinosaur bones. We know they're there. And they need to be... The reason they're not in the Bible is because mankind wrote the Bible and mankind didn't know anything about them. If God had written the Bible that they try to make you, like they try to make you think, God would have bothered to put them in there, and as well as a whole bunch of other things that are not in there. They're not in there because man made it and man didn't know anything about a dinosaur. I put them in my book because they're very interesting, and here we are. Chapter 8, The Dinosaurs.
Chapter 8, The Dinosaurs.
It had been 2 billion years since the collide of Nibiru and Tiamat. Calm was the universe when suddenly, in a galaxy far away, a planet in its first arc cycle's neighboring star collapsed. The supernova destroyed most of its inhabitants. The resulting energy wake sent enormous waves of destructions across vast distances. Some of the planets were inhabited by thousands and thousands of plant and biological life forms. The devastation burst particles and meteors in a wide range through space. One such explosion ripped debris into the galaxy of the Milky Way, blasting stellar bodies with life forms unlike any before seen in this quadrant. All manners of flotsam and jetsam struck all planets in this system. Most vulnerable was Tiamat, with her vast oceans and sustainable climate. Ever so high were the levels of atoms of hydrogen and oxygen. This bombardment pelted the planet for years, and then all at once it began to subside. In the cool waters and the sun rays from Apsu, new life forms began to explode. Celia flagella and pseudoephedrine life forms would flourish in the primordial seas. Eukaryote and organic matter organisms would develop their own ecosystem. Microscopic unicellular organisms such as flora and fauna biota would grow into new life forms spreading across the planetary surface. They would thrive eating algae and biochemicals. Evolution would be fed by the multitudes of plankton that reached the vast oceans. So limitless was the amount of growth food that Mother Nature need not intervene in the process of evolution. She merely sat back as a megalodon, the prehistoric version of the great white shark, with this voracious appetite and unlimited growth potential devoured species. The Tanystropheus and the Tyleosaurus, along with many other giant ocean-dwelling dinosaurs, were personally enhanced with speed and agility to enable them to hasten evolution by consumption. The more they ate, the more they grew. The more they grew, the more spirits were shot out of the ocean and into other regions of space. Not a soul was wasted during this period, with small sea-dwelling creatures seeking out the larger. Sea life suicide seemed to be the order, or perhaps it was simply instinctive to be drawn to the mouths of the predators. Many large sea-dwelling spirits journeyed with smaller, less aggressives, feeding off the unwanted excess provided by the overstocked oceans. Many species were quick to evolve onto land where survival seemed to be less threatened by large, fast-moving beasts. Out of the waters onto the land, thousands of species of land-destined creatures grabbed and held onto rocks in Great Barrier Reefs. Eventually, they would evolve into great land and sea giants.
Now that we have established that they're here and where they came from, I put another very interesting chapter in the book. My book is 95% nonfiction. However, I took creative liberty, to put something in there interesting for my granddaughter. I didn't want to have a book that she couldn't appreciate. I want to have something that could strike her imagination, like my imagination was struck when I was very young. So I wrote a chapter called The Angel Hive. I kind of made it up. It was about Mother Nature seeing a comet coming towards the planet and asking God to help her do something about it because she feared it might run into one of her most beautiful planets. And then what happened was God wasn't about to do that because God is omnipotent. He knew it wasn't going to hit anything. And so she called upon angels to help her sister, and then the angels tried to help, and they ended up steering it towards the planet. Then the dinosaurs got blown up. Okay, well, I made that up. But anyway, it's a good story, worth telling for reasons, like I said, just for creative license. That was fiction. Don't come saying just because that was not true, it makes the rest of it not true. I will tell you exactly which chapters I made up and the ones I did not. Where do you hear one about Moses? I really made that up because I couldn't, anyway. So here is Angel Hive.
Chapter 9: The Angel Hive.
It all happened rather suddenly as a roar and a streaking flash streamed across the heavens. It was a comet. A comet, the likes which had never been seen in such a densely clustered planetary system. This was very dangerous. So disturbing was this stellar event that it had gained the attention of the mother of all nature. Unable was she in her effort to conciliate. She knew of only one thing to do. She would perceive God and postulate the potentiality of danger to anyone or anything as a result of the comet. This was the first such calamitous event to be experienced by the mother. God had seen this many times before and felt that it would be more important to let the comet take its course, though at the time the mother could in no way realize the reason. God denied the mother's request for his involvement, though she knew not why and had little time to ponder. After pleading with God with no commiseration, she sat back awaiting the event to pass. However, she could not. Her involvement was matriarchal. She could only imagine what would happen if the comet struck one of the many planetary bodies, all the while fearing her boundless intuition. She begged and pleaded to God, but for some reason he did not respond. What she didn't remember was that God could see the future, which was an ability she shared not. God knew that no planetary bodies were in danger, but neglected to tell her. So she rushed to the heavens to try to impose upon the lords for assistance. The lords could help her not. They had no such power over stellar events or the magic to assist therein. She pleaded to the archangels, and still no answer. Finally, she called upon the quotidian angels, whom she knew could not resist her requisition. She knew that they would do anything in their power to give as much assistance as they possibly could give. And so hundreds, if not thousands, of such angels did rush to the galaxy of the Milky Way to see what could be done and to raise their spiritual status. The cry of Mother Nature spread quickly through galaxies, bouncing off temporal rifts in space and being sucked in singularities that spread about the quadrant. One such black hole led to a region of space so far away that the angels there had never even heard of Mother Nature. So great was their curiosity, and so far away were these angels, that God would assist them in entering the mission, even though He had denied the assistance to the Mother just moments before. So it came to be the angels traveled in mass numbers. They traveled even though they were completely oblivious to the matter at hand. It seemed to be that angels loved adventure. They would try anything more than once just because of their non-eventful existence. As the crowds of angels grew, they seemed to be able to fly more rapidly when flying in large flocks than they could alone. So they flew without awareness, without reward, they flew. One such angel was so fast that he was able to fly back and forth and back, keeping the now several groups in close groupings. This very fast angel was also able to reach the front and make all aware of the circumstance. He would brief all while flying full speed through thousands of light years of space. He found that there was a very dangerous and very deadly comet hurling through space on a catastrophic collision course towards Mother Nature's most beloved planets. He was informed that the comet was so hot that if the angels ventured too close, they could burn the wings of their bodies completely off, leaving them bound for a life of crawling on asteroids or whatever they could reach by hand, or simply floating through space without means of propulsion, just adrift forever. The fast angel set forth to inform all the angels of the mission, though he knew not what the plan was once they reached the deadly comet. So motivated were most of the angels that all but a few continued on, fully aware of the danger, while others decided to remain in place and be messengers to the other curious angels that may have heard, then wanted to hear updates about the mission. The angels did engage the comet at a sector just beyond the Milky Way as it streaked across the heavens. Dark and ominous was the beast as it rushed through space. Foreboding and sinister as gaseous-like plumes followed the main fuselage, trailing thousands of miles behind her. Vast was a cluster of angels that did form a tight circle around the comet. The plan was to redirect the comet's path as he assumed its direction, unaware of the dangers of the slightest miscalculation. The angel hive did begin to feel that their efforts were not in vain, as they did appear to be able to effect some degree of directional change. So exhilarated were they then that they began to shout in celebration of their effort. The bulk of the angels were, in fact, forcing their will upon the main body of the pulsating comet, while 3 of the fastest angels led the path, hoping to find open space. Their engagement seemed positive when all of a sudden it took a turn for the worse. As the comet began to reach the system of Apsu and Tiamat, the then frozen comet began to grow hot as it passed through the atmosphere of the neighboring planets. So blistering was the heat that the angels could no longer keep their proximity to effect directional change. It was then, in a great panic, that the angel guides find themselves in a direct collision course with Tiamat. The lead angels began to shout out to the hive as the angel's wings began to scorch from the heat of the now blazing comet. Herculean became the task to redirect the comet. The angels were unable to keep pace with their burning wings as they were forced to abandon pursuit. Overwhelming was their emotions as they could only sit back and lay witness to the calamitous event that was about to occur because of their efforts. As the angels broke off pursuit, they could only gather in a great big ball as they shook in fear, unable to open their eyes to witness the inescapable outcome. The angels' vibrating bodies gave way to a perpetual disconsolate despondence as they cried louder and louder, and the comet, now with Tiamat directly in its path.
Welcome back, and thank you for watching. Everybody subscribe. We're going to get the viewers up, and ultimately we're going to have we're going to tell the entire story from the beginning of the universe to roughly it ends about where Jesus is about 13 years old. But we have a lot of stories to go and a lot of amazing information in there. We'll explain everything the Bible did not explain. Because like I said, Sunday morning is a good time to teach. Thank you.
If you should awaken, I will be there when you wake from your lovely
Hello, my love. How were your dreams? And if maybe, did you dream of me? Like every night, my pillow tight, and think of you. Before you know, it seems so long ago when I held you close to me, and I was close to you. Don't you fear, don't shed a tear, I'll be here, there in your lonely night, so you'll know everything's alright, there when you need someone to hold you and love you. to me. Like every night I hold my pillow tight and I dream of you. Before you know, it seems so long ago. When I held you close to me, and my world was close to you. Don't you feel